Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Masechtas Chulin Daf Zayin. We're going to review and continue where we were last time, which is in the middle of Vav Amud Beis, in the middle of this short Amud. So it tells us the following story: Hayed Rabbi Yeshua ben Zaruz ben Chamav Shel Reb Meir. So he was related to Reb Meir, and he testifies Lifnei Rebbe Al Rab Meir, because again he was there with his relative Rab Meir. He says that Shan, that I saw that he was eating a leaf of some vegetable in this location. Now, what's the big deal? What he was eating, right? What are you watching his plate for? So this is not just stam that he ate it, but the point is that he did this without separating meiser. And this is going to be based on the question, and Rashi says, Vo Iser, he didn't take off Meiser, and apparently there's no reason to have to in this particular location. And in this location, it wasn't like Eretz Yisrael, which obviously is Chayiv and Meiser, and therefore, for that reason, there's no Chi of Meiser. Okay, we'll see what's Beishan. Is it like Chutzor, it's completely... So we'll get into this. V'hiter Rebius Beishan Kula al Yadai. So he mattered, based on this testimony, completely this entire location. Now, Rashi says L'echel Yerek Shula Uperos Ilan Betivlin. So you can eat things that come from trees, and it's produce, even though it's tevel, no meiser. Now the kasak adaita chamina ksav Reb Meir lav Eretz Yisrael. Obviously, this land is not like Israel. Well, meiser dagan b'chutz la'aretz hu naig min rabbanan. Now, the truth is, when it comes to dagan, which is a chiyuv deraisa food to separate, that we are naig min rabbanan. However, Eretz deraisa, because in Eretz Yisrael it's deraisa. So therefore, since dagan grain is something which is a chiyuv deraisa, so therefore, even in chutz la'aretz like Beishan, we're strict. Avol meiser yarek de be'eretz gufei derabanan lo gaz yemidi b'chutz la'aretz. There's no reason to have to make this gezerah, because if vegetables in itself is just a din derabanan to begin with, right? Yirakos are just derabanan, so therefore they're not geyser over there. Dim Eretz Yisraeli, because in fact this was considered like Eretz Yisrael after Meir v'Rebbe Acher Churban Hakaimelan Meiser Dagan Deraisa v'Yeret Rabbanan the Kedusha Achrayna the Ezra Kadsha Aflas Lavoi. As we know, the famous Machlokus is a Kitchel L'Shaita, a Kitchel Lavoi. So that is apparently a clear proof that Beishan is not in the category of Eretz Yisrael. Okay. So Chavrulav Achav Ubeis Oviv. So they gathered all together. And below they said, Makom Shavasecha V'Yavasecha Nagabu Isser, a place where an Isser was Nayig, Ata Tinhig Bo Heter. So I don't understand. How could you come up with this Heter that it used to be in previous generations? It was forbidden. So Darsh Lohen Mikrazeh. So they darshan this pasuk in the time of Chizkiyahu Melech Yehuda. It says V'kites nachash nachayshes asher asa Moshe. So they broke in this copper snake in which Moshe made. Ki ad hayomim hahema, until then hay b'nei Yisrael mikatrin loy. They would bow down to it as like a form of avodah zarah. V'yikru loy nechayshtan. So Efsher Ba'asa Vol Be'iro. You understand? Ba'asa came and didn't destroy it. Ba'yashafad Vol Be'iro. Avoloi Kol Avodah Zar Sheba'ayom Asa V'yashafad Be'irom. I don't understand. If they were actually worshipping this thing, then the previous generations apparently would have destroyed it. Zainam and Aleph Ela Makoim Hanichai Lo Avoisav Lis Gader Boy. So they deliberately waited and gave an opportunity for a future generation to be able to do something. Afani makam hanichol avoisai lizgadeva, says Rashi. Kishiyava b'neinu achrenu imo yimsu mal sakin b'ma yigdol shemam. So he was gader, says was gadel. They deliberately didn't want to do everything, even though they could have, but they left something behind so the next generation, so this person will be known. Oh, he was the one that did this. He's the one that did this. Otherwise, you have one person that does everything. So it's the same thing. Even though in previous generations it was usher, so now they gave us an opportunity to matter. Okay. Now, how does this fall into the whole discussion in the beginning of Megillah? It says that you could only mavatal based in chaveroi, b'minyan, b'chachma minyan. So it's apparently that no one paskin that it was us. It was just understood that that's what the din was, and they came up with this heter. Mikan, what can we learn out from this? The fact that we find that they were makabel this edus, and they were able to learn from it. Says Rashi, Alpha Bisha Davar Temahu, even though it's strange and hard to imagine. They always were strict. It was always forbidden. So what do we see? What Talmud Chacham Shomer Davar Halacha, that when a Talmud Chacham says something, Shin Mazichin Oisa, then we don't push it away. So this guy comes up with this chiddush. We shouldn't just pretend, oh, whatever, right? No, we have to actually embrace it as V'yarmela in Mizanichin Oisa, V'yarmela in Mazchichin Oisai. Maschichin, so the first one, Masnichin, is Meshaksim Estavar, like to make it like his words repulsive, or Mizachichin, Loimer Goischa Garmaloi, it's your haughtiness that causes it. Shulhatis Oizin Lishmoy Davar Kihilchasum Api Rabcha, you obviously didn't listen to your teachers. Lishnachrina Magvihin Salkanaisim Davar, to lift up. Okay. Anyway, the point is that you're supposed to you should have to listen to the words of a Talmud Chacham. So Mandi Amr Mazichin, one who says it's the language of Mazichin, Kedechsev Lo Yizach HaChayshin, that the Chayshin was not removed from the ephod. But Mandi Amr Ein Maznichin, so which again is a lashon of Meshaksim, Kedechsev Ki Lo Yiznach Lo Oylam Hashem, that you didn't not to reject Hashem. Mandi Amr Mazchichin, which is, as we interpreted it on, Misharabu Zechuchi Halev, when the Zechuchi Halev, the people who were haughty, increased, Rabu Machlaikas Yisrael. There's a lot more Machlaikas in Yisrael. Okay. So Maskav Yehuda Beredu Rav Shimon ben Pazi. Miiko Mandi Aimer the Beishan La Meretz Yisrael. This whole story is hard to imagine. They were saying that you could eat from these fruits and vegetables because it's not from Eretz Yisrael. Who says that Beishan is not from Eretz Yisrael? Well, the pasuk says in Shaitim, "V'lo hoyrish Menashe," as Beishan, that Menashe will not liquidate the Beishan. Yes benoseha v'yes tancha v'yes benoseha. So apparently, we see clearly that this, as Rashi says, El hanichum lamas oived. The Yashiva Binehem, he made like something about tax over there. Anyway, the point is, we see clearly it's part of Eretz Yisrael. So Yishtamid Hadiyam Rav Shimon ben Alikim Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Padas, that this was forgotten, that was said Shomer Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua in his name, that Harbi Krachim Kivshum Oli Mitzrayim. There's a lot of villages in which were conquered when we left Mitzrayim, our first time going into Eretz Yisrael. However, when we got to Bavel, from the second time, rather from Bavel to the second binyan, Habayas, we didn't conquer as much. Which is the time of Yeshua, and the Kedusha did not extend. And they left it unset. So the question is, why is Beishan? Why are we not noyig it like Eretz Yisrael? It was done on purpose. This is very interesting. Just like he said before, the henichum, that they left it over the previous generations, right? For me, the henichum, they also left it unsanctified. Says Rashi, v'kichim kedusha sa'aretz. So when we left Mitzrayim, we conquered a lot of lands, and it developed the kedusha of Eretz Yisrael. V'lkivshim olibavo l'kanshim b'shniya, but not the second time around. L'kach l'kivshim. That's the reason why Beishan wasn't considered to be kadosh. T'ksavar hoyel v'hutru the kedusha rishayin l'batel. Skipping a few lines. V'yisbach le'maniyim lito leket shichlupeya. That now the poor people can go and take the various things that they need to survive for food. U'maiser ani u'Beishan mehem hoysa. And Beishan was among them. V'oisan shekitshu hein l'bata b'churban sheni. Those that were sanctified were not batal in the churban sheni, as it brought down in this V'aviyacha Hashem Elkecha Aretz Asher Yerusha V'Sach V'Yishta Yerush Rishayna V'Shniya Yeshahem Shabbatla Yerush Rishayna V'Nikra Shniya Yerusha Of Yerusha Shlishas Ein Sheshniya L'Paska Hilcha B'Yemei Rebbe Nagu Iser B'Aretz. So in Beishan they're not noig on the Yerakos, only noig on, as we said, like the wheat, oil, and the wine, but not on vegetables, which, as we said, is only din Rabbanan. But they did it deliberately, so in order that the poor people should be able to partake during Shvius, because otherwise the land will remain completely fallow. No one's going to work the land, and if that's what happens, it's going to turn out that there's not going to be any fruit there. So at least let someone work. They're going to work the land, and then all these laws will still apply. Meiser Ani, etc. Meiser Ani is interesting because Meiser Ani we know is only years 3 and 6. What exactly does that mean? But that's certainly something to contemplate. Okay. So Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbi Zera Bahara Meir Allah Ba'alma Hu Da'achal. Maybe there's no proof here at all. Maybe all he did was eat unprocessed food. In other words, as Rashi says, maybe the reason why he was able to eat is not because it's not considered to be Eretz Yisrael, and therefore it doesn't have this sanctity, and therefore you could eat it even untithed. Maybe not. Maybe, as Rashi says, it's an Achilas Arai, and we know even in Eretz Yisrael you can eat an Achilas Arai. So you can take something which is not processed and just eat it, even without taking off the Trumas and Maisers. So maybe that's all he did. So Malay, no, Aguda Achle. He ate it in a bundle. In other words, it was already produced completely and processed, and therefore he still ate it even after that. So obviously it's not because it was a Achilas Arai, because you wouldn't be able to do that otherwise. But non Yerk Hanegad Mishi Yegad. When it comes to the time its norm is for it to be wrapped up, then it's no longer considered to be an Achilas Arai. You can't eat it anymore without taking off Meiser. Vidilmo Lava Daite. Maybe he forgot to separate the Meiser. Maybe he just made a mistake, right? Rameir forgot, but maybe actually you're supposed to do it. So this is why we bring this whole story down. No. We're not going to say that. If Rameir is not going to just make a stumble when it comes to his food. Because even in animals, we're going to see in today's daf, the donkey of Rav Pinchas ben Yair wouldn't eat things which were not proper. Certainly the tzaddik himself. Okay. So, okay, fine. So it must be that he never took off ties and didn't need to. But maybe not. Maybe he actually did take mice, so he just didn't realize it. He just took it from a different place. So minamukaf means something which is like not connected, far away, right? So even though maybe it works technically if you have your mind on something which is another food for this food, but we don't, a Talmid Chacham wouldn't do that. So maybe Taka, the food was right here, right? And he called it Meiser on this side, and he ate from this side. So it's still min, it's minamukaf, it's still there. So look at this great person who testified. In other words, he obviously knew what he was talking about. Even though that's true, what you're saying is a possibility, he obviously investigated before he gave this testimony that wasn't the case. So on this, the Gemara asks, okay, we keep talking about it's the animal. What exactly is this? And of course, this is one of the most famous sugis in Shas, so we all know it, but this is where it is found. Pinchas ben Yair, he was going to do a mitzvah every redeeming someone who was in captivity. Talk about beginning Nahara. So he was in this place. It was a river, name of a river. Amalei Ginoi, he couldn't cross because there was this big river in front of him. He said, split the water, let the water cease, so that I'll be able to go through and traverse through it. Amalei, so the river said, so to speak, you want to do a good mitzvah of saving someone's life. I'm also doing what I'm supposed to do. You're doing what you're doing, I have to do what I'm doing. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't be successful. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. So sounds like a counter argument. He said, if you disagree and you don't want to help me, because you're going to cause it. You're not going to have any more water anymore. You're going to be in trouble. So he threatened it, and he caused the water to split. So there was actually a person who was carrying wheat for Pesach to make matzah. So Nami Le Lahai, it also split for him. The mitzvah osik. Cholokle. Havia Hitaya, there was this Arab merchant, Delavia Bahadayu, that was accompanying them. Armali Cholokle Nami Lahai, the Lolema, you shouldn't say Karchaisim Lavia, you do this for your escort. Cholokle, so it's split. Okay. So it's actually says Rashi Libni Chabura Shemanichin Bahoilich. Anyway, so it was actually 3 people that it split for. So maybe it was not as impressive, or maybe the first time was what's impressive, and once it was done, right? To do something the first time, which is against the will, and you're able to get that done, so the ones afterwards is not as impressive. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Kaman Nafish Gavrim Moshe. This person, Pinchas ben Yair, is on a high level like Moshe. Vishostin Ravua, and the 60 myriads. The Ilu Hasa, over there by the splitting of the sea, Chad Zimna. That only happened once. V'hacha Tlasa Zimna. It actually happened 3 times over here. V'dilma Hachinami Chad Zimna. Maybe it only happened once. Elokim Moshe Vishostin Rivua. In other words, says Rashi, Ela Misyari Haya Shal Yichsu Hamayim V'yishtavu Hashnayim V'yimadavar Alehem Shiyamtin Lehem Hanar. Maybe it didn't split 3 times, maybe it only split once. And while it split, there was 2 other guys that was next to him. One guy was carrying this, and the other guy this. So nonetheless, that's still impressive. It was Kim Moshe. So Iklahu Ushpiz, and he went to this innkeeper. Ramule Sar Lechamre, and he had this barley for his donkey, and Loachel. The donkey didn't want to eat it. Like, why wouldn't the donkey? The donkey's pretty hungry. Zayin Mid Base. So the Gemara continues and says, Chavtinhu Loachel. Says Rashi, Ben Nafa. They were like hitting it, or like literally means with a sieve to clean it out. So maybe there was something wrong with the grain, that's why I didn't eat it. Nakrinhu Loachel. So they were banging it with their hands, with stones, and still didn't eat. Amalhu Dilmul Masran. She said maybe the reason why is because you didn't take off tithes. So Asrinhu Ba'achel. They took off the tithes, and all of a sudden the donkey ate. Amar Aniyazu, this poor donkey, that this donkey is going to do the will of Hashem. This donkey is doing a matul mitzvah, and how dare you? You're going to feed it tevel? So now we digress for a moment. And it says, Umi mechayve. Is it true that an animal is obligated to not eat untithed food? Says Rashi. Meichel behema hanilkach mi'am haaretz. If you have food for animals that was bought by an am haaretz, klum gozul mishum demai. Is it really an issue of demai? Certainly, if there was definitely it wasn't tithe, then you'd be chayav to take off meiser. But on a suffix, we shouldn't be geyser. So over here, we weren't sure. He said, Dilma Lamasrin, right? So it was a suffix, it was Damai. So apparently, you shouldn't have to for an animal. Halokeach, when it comes to the purchasing, was there for plant, behema for an animal, vikemach l'oirais for hides, v'shemen l'ner, oil for your menorah, not to eat it, v'shemen l'tzuch, or to boyas hakelim, to smear on your vessels. It says clearly you don't have to have demai. So what's the problem over here with this animal? Because you originally only bought it for an animal, but that's not what happened over here. And that was apparently what happened over here, that this grain was purchased originally for a person, and therefore it was mechuyev in demai. Question 5. So if you purchase for an animal, you're potter, but if for a person, okay. And this is a proof. You purchase fruits, to eat them, but then you want to give it to your animal. You can't give it to your animal, not your friend's animal. Unless you took off the meiser because of demai. So again, that's the proof. So Shama Rabbi heard this, and Nafek l'apei, and he went out to greet him. So Rabbi said, "Would you like to eat with me?" He asked Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Hey, yeah, why not? So tzaf upon him, show Rabbi. He got excited, and he was all light. He was all lit up. I thought you always never want to eat from anyone, and it almost seemed like you made almost like a neder from eating from anyone, right? So it says Rashi, Samach mipnei shelo haya Rab Pinchas ragel hanais mishal cherem. He never apparently ate from anyone. The Yisrael Kedoshim, Jews are holy. Yesh writes v'ein lois, who said there's those that want to help, they just don't have the means, and I don't want to embarrass them and take something they don't have. V'yesh loi, there's some that do. V'yesh sheyesh loi v'ein I v'ksiv al tilachim es lechem ra'oyin, that a person should not eat bread with a stingy eye. Val tita'u l'mitamatav, and you should not desire the delicacies. Ki kamo sharbanasho kain hu. Eat and drink, I'll say to you, v'libo bal imcha. In your heart, the heart is not with you. However, you, Rabbi, write to v'yeshlo. You willingly want me to come to your house, and you also have the means, right? So otherwise, I would have come to people. I would go to people's homes, but it has to be a write to v'yeshlocha. Mia hashda misahar vina. The truth is, right now I can't, because I'm in a huge rush. The milsa the mitzvah tarchana. I'm being tarech. I'm busy doing a mitzvah. I have pidyon shuin to adhere to. I can't sit around and just have a leisurely meal with you. However, ki hadarna, when I return after I finish my mitzvah, I'll have a little more time. And asino gabach, then I'll come and eat by you. So kiyasa sramile bahu pischa dahavi kaiman ba be kordinasa chavarta. So when he ended up coming back, he ended up going through a certain opening to his house, which had these white mules, which apparently are the most dangerous things alive. It's like having a polar bear in your house. That's low, right? It's like, beware of dog. And I can't believe I was going to eat by you, and you have these wild, dangerous animals. Shama Rebbe Nafal Ape. So he went out. The Armule, he said, Mizdavdina lahu. I apologize. I'll sell them. I'll get rid of them. Armule, lifnei iver lifnei mechshol. Forget it. Well, who are you going to sell it to? Now they're going to have these dangerous things. Okay, I'll just make them ownerless. So he said, Fasha says Zika. Then you're going to increase the damage, because now they're going to run all over the place, right? And they're going to end up being more dangerous. So akranulahu, Okay, I'll remove the hooves, which is the most dangerous part. No, you can start about Chaim. You don't have a right to do that. You're going to harm these animals for no good reason. So maybe I should kill them. Ikabal tashchas. So these are all reasons why you can't do this. Havika mevatesh by Betuvi, who's pressing him to come. Gabatura binaihu bacha, and he started to cry. Says Rashi, you have deal one. There was this mountain between them to separate them. So bacha Rabbi v'omer ma b'chayehin kach mimisas alachas kama v'kam. Let's look at this Rashi. So in the lifetime of tzaddikim, kach nois and HaKadosh Baruch Hu liboy puts into their hearts al tavasim shlul havir daitam shigarm hadavar shenichnas bepesach haprados. Somehow he went through the entryway in which has these wild mules, these wild mules. No one ever goes through that way. Why did he happen to have gone through that way? Obviously, Hashem was watching him. She in dark Lisa and Michelle Cherim can all come on. So he obviously protects him. So if that is how it is, be musasin al ka'achs kama. What does that mean? Sharbi misasin gedolim yosem b'chayim. Tzaddikim are viewed greater because they're all neshama in their death after this world. Kidiyam Rabbi Chama, as Rabbi Chama says. How do we see this? What does Rabbi Chama say? Diyam Rabbi Chama, Baruch Chanina Gedoyot Tzaddikim Misasi Yosef B'Chayeihen. It's almost lahavdil like a Jedi in Star Wars, right? They're more powerful in death than in life. Okay, there's obviously connections between that movie where they got it all from. Shneimar B'Hihim Kol Yivrim Ish. They buried this person who happened to be a Russia who cannot be buried near tzaddikim. V'ini ro es hagadud, and they saw these troops. Yashlichu es ish bekever Elisha, and they went to the kever of Elisha. V'yelach, they went. V'yiga ha'ish bat samos Elisha, and they reached the bones of Elisha. V'yechi v'yokum al raglav, and he got up on his feet. Armale rapapul abaya v'dilma kiyumehu v'kiyume be birchasa de Eliyahu. Maybe it's only to be mekayim the blessing of Eliyahu. D'chseva he na pishnayim bruchacha, that regarding Elisha, he had to bring back two people to fulfill his nevuah, as we're going to see. Armale rapapul abaya v'dilma kiyume be birchasa de Eliyahu. D'chseva he na pishnayim bruchacha alai. Armale ihachi hanu desanya, we learn al raglav oimed amad lebesu loy halach, which means that he actually died right away. Look at Rashi. V'ilu b'chayav, in his lifetime, kisharotz lahachiyos ben hashunamis, when he wanted to revive the child who died of which he did revive, the child of the Shunamite woman. Chutzach l'shim piv al piv, he put mouth to mouth, ve'enav al enav, eyes to eyes, l'vakish rachmim, and he asked for mercy, right? However, it took a tremendous toll for him to be able to do that in his lifetime. However, not in his death, that he was able to bring back two people to life, right? Says Rashi, Dosagelim tiskayim dechsibat tzadikim v'tigzar oimer v'yokem loch v'lav mishum Elishahu pishnayim Eliyahu hichya ben hatzar pis v'Elisha ben hashonamis v'tzarach lahachiyos oid acher, and he had to revive another person. Okay, so let's keep going over here. Ella b'ma'ikum kinyam Rav Yochanan sheripat saras naaman shehi shekos kamesh shenemar al natahi kamesh, that someone who has saras, it's like he died. So actually Elisha did revive someone else in addition to the Ben Shunamit, he also revived Naaman. He didn't die, but he had saras, so he prayed for him, and that was a way for it's ki'ilu, like he revived someone from the dead. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Lama Nikr Shimon Yamim. Why was it called Yamim? She'imasam mutelas al briyos, because his fear, these talking about these donkeys, are placed upon the people. Yom Rav Chanina miyoma, in my day, lo shalti Adam al Makas prayed the Lavan v'chaya. I never heard of anyone who was injured by these white mules and survived. That's how dangerous they were. What are you talking about? I saw that people did live. That the wound heals. The wound will always remain. So the person may live a long life, maybe not such a long life, but the injury will always remain. That's how powerful it is. I saw that they do get healed. Yeah, that's the chivrin reish karaihu. There's white on the tip of the hooves, kamrinan. So if they have that attribute, then they're very dangerous. In Sefer Devarim it says ein oid milvado. Some Rabbi Chanina v'yafil kshafim. It says there's no one like Hashem. Even when it comes to witchcraft and sorcery, it cannot harm a person if Hashem does not will the person to be harmed. Hayisa dahavika mehadruna lemishkal afra metute kara de Rabbi Chanina. She used to, for some reason, want to take the dirt from underneath the feet of Rabbi Chanina, which probably means she was engaged in shafim. So Malay shakuli, you can take it, help yourself. Lumastayim milsach, it's not going to do anything because einod milvado ksiv. I'm not worried about your kshafim. It's not going to have any power because Hashem's more powerful. Remember Rabbi Yochanan, lo menikra shema kshafim. Why is witchcraft called kshafim? Shemachishin pamalya shomayla, because it weakens the forces of above. So it sounds kshafim is machishin. It weakens Hashem's powers. So what do you mean einod milvadoi, that the kshafim have no power? We see it does. Shani Rabbi Chanina denafisha zechusei. With Rabbi Chanina, he didn't have to worry about it because he was such a great tzaddik. His chusim overrode everything else. V'yom Rabbi Chanina ein adam noikif etzba'o milmata el im kein machrizan Allah milmal. This is obviously a very deep question of Yedi and Bechira, that if you bang your hand, so it only was because it was declared so in the heavens above. Shnemer ma metzadi gaver kainanu. What is it, these footsteps of a person that has been established? Adam ma yovin darko. Amar Lezer dam nikuf maratza kedam oila. That if you are injured, your fingers, your hand, it will have the same kapara than a person who actually brings a carbon ola. Amar Rava, it depends. It's only begaidel. If it happens to his big finger, right? Rashi says, it's very painful. The question is, maybe talking about a toe, or is it talking about your finger, your thumb, your right one? Ubenikuf sheni, and it's the second hit. Udikazal davar mitzvah. It's only if you went to do a mitzvah that it happened. Okay, in shulchan mitzvah and in the zakin. Okay, Amar Lav al Rav Pinchas ben Yair miyamav lo batzal prusa. He never ate a meal, Shena Shalom, which isn't his. Yom Sha'amad al Daito when the head of Masudas Aviv. And from the time that he was Amad al Daito, like from the time he was like bar mitzvah or at a very young age, he never ate from even his father's food. He was a totally independent man, which is an interesting thing, that a true measure of a man is like Rav Pinchas ben Yair, who would not take from things that did not belong to him. Okay. Let's stop here. Let's look at some questions. Question 6. What's the proof? So he learned it from Elisha. Shehichya b'moso, that he caused back to life in his death, b'negia ba'alma, just with touching, v'ilu b'chayav, when he was alive, kishehichya, when he was alive, and he revived the Ben Hashunamit, he needed to be able to go piv al piv and all this business. So he was able to cure someone in a much quicker way It says vayelech vayiga. Right, that's what the pasuk says. Vayiga. All he did was only touched. Right, a quick touch was able to heal. Ha'ish ba'atzamos Elisha. Vayechi vayakam al raglav. As soon as there was just a quick touch, that was enough. Okay. Question TA 5. Be'elu talmim docho Reb Pinchas ben Yair. Why was Pinchas ben Yair not interested in this meal? And it asks, Mash Yamar Rebbe al Hadachyaisa Chivarta Mizdamninulhu O Akranulhu Akatlinulhu. So it's asking the three things. How come he didn't sell it? Because selling it's not good because Lifnei Iver, someone else is going to have it. How about doing something to its legs so it won't kick anymore? That's Sarba L'chaim. Killing it is Bal Tashkas. So for those reasons, it didn't work. That's TA 5. And that is on Zion Amud Beis. Let's see. If you sell it, Yochel Hazik, okay, Sarba L'chaim, Bal Tashkas. Okay. Okay. Good. TB. Same question. TB8. They do this a lot. Lifnei Ivo Tid Michel, Sarba L'chaim, Bal Tashkas. Adkan.